I have been wanting to make this painting for about 12 years now. And I'm painting on a piece of maple wood. You can't see it, it's quite thick. And I've also had that for many years. Shipped it from Texas to where I am now. And I wanted to paint monochromatic first to get my tones correctly, but also because I tend to love monochrome. So even though I like the colors of the original, I am working from a photograph that I took in 2012 in Rome at a very famous artist cafe of this, I assume, grandfather with his grandson. And I like the colors that are in it, but I also wanted to see if I like it monochrome too, or maybe do some more. Every piece that I do, I want to learn something. So this is no different. And I've been working on color because I don't feel like that's my strong point, but it's okay because I really like the touchable quality of monochromes. And I started in black and white photography, so it makes sense to me that I would enjoy those kind of things. I want to get this shape worked out here. Anyway, so I'm working on this painting, and I'm very, very happy to do that. That's the perk of everybody going on vacation, because it means that I am free to be at home doing what I love to do. Because even though I'm single and I don't have the excuse of little kiddos taking up my time and stuff, which is a valid thing, and I'm not that good at housekeeping because I just don't care. I mean, there's a point, obviously, but in general, prefer to live. You know, my mother raised us with a doormat that says, I don't want it said on my tomb that I always had a clean house. I like that. I always have. But anyway, I want to work on the monochrome, and maybe I'll leave it that way, maybe I won't. It's hard to tell at this point. But I felt very strongly that I wanted to see the monochrome first, study the tones, because one thing I also discovered when I was doing my color studies is that I was losing my tonal information because I was so interested in playing with colors that were bright pastels, because pastels is a great way to move into color because it's just overwhelming. And I mean, they're super strong. If you're not used to strong color, it's a good place to start because it pushes you out of your comfort zone, whether you are anticipating that or not. Anyway, I've been studying with Casey Klon because I think his color stuff is amazing. And of course, if you're going to pick a mentor, why wouldn't you pick someone that you like his work, right? So anyway, that's that. And I want to see how this is going to look. Also, I started out, this is an acrylic. This is a burnt umber acrylic paint. I wanted to try the raw sienna, but I couldn't, or the raw umber, but I couldn't find it. So I ended up using this that I had. And it's really weird because this maple wood, I actually put, let's see if you could see it. You see here how thick it is? I actually had put many years ago a gesso on this, a white gesso, and it's sitting for many years. But you can see that here, the acrylic paint really was not, I mean, I don't know. Acrylic is always weird to work with anyway until you get used to it, which apparently I'm not used to it, because this was sort of freaking me out. I couldn't get the paint to actually stay on there, and you can see where it left a lot of this. It didn't sink into the texture and stuff. Maybe the gesso wasn't absorbing it so well. I don't know. I can also see I did a crooked line here. This is a frame that's going around a big piece of artwork because this is an art cafe in Roma. So anyway, I'm trying to work out some of those kind of things, but I wanted to have this sort of underpainting so that later I can swoosh things around a little bit with the oil. But I decided the oil is so much more fun to work with, and that's what I'm doing. Anyway, if you want to follow this progress, we'll try to put update videos every once in a while, although I've been asked to work on a painting of the construction workers near my boyfriend's house, and so I've been spending my evenings trying to look at images to see if I can create a composition for them as, you know, sort of a surprise thing to do. I won't give them the original, but I'll give them a print, or if I can make something I like, and we'll see. But anyway, I'm going to try to post things, and so follow me, Ptolemy. It's too hot to show myself here, so I hope I'm not. We'll have to see. Thanks for watching. This is Kelly Borsheim at borsheimarts.com. Stay tuned for more and follow me on YouTube or go to my site at borsheimarts.com. Ciao, ciao. All right, I wanted to share with you that I'm laying in the background here of my monochromatic painting. Do you see how underneath the frame here I've got this dark, that dark, and then it goes to light, and then it goes dark to light. I have this too dark, not only in relationship to these, which the lighting's fairly similar across there, so they should be equal, but mostly I started thinking that he's got a light colored jacket and this is a dark. That's a high point of contrast right there. Obviously his jacket will be darker than the pure white of the board, but my point is I don't want a high contrast area out of the frame, okay? Because the subject is the grandfather and the grandson enjoying a cup of coffee together, okay? So even though this is the underpainting and I can change that later, I want to minimize that. I might go in and make this darker because at least this is center of them, but I still want them to be the stars of the show. Now, it's going to be interesting because in the original photo, these guys are not so... You can see up here is the photo that I took. Their faces are in shadow, especially the Nonno, the grandfather. But anyway, I just wanted to make a quick point, I hope. I can't even make anything quick. To say I want to minimize the contrast here. So I've been adding some lighter touches to make this in. I can always layer color over it to make it darker later. The other thing I have to realize is that this print here is from a photograph. A photograph does not see the tones as our eyes do, and then the print makes it worse still. So I always have to keep in mind there that places like this in the jacket that disappear into total black, they're not really going to do that in real life, okay? They give me an indication if I want to swing toward dark or toward light. I can have an idea of which way a photo interpreted the scene, but that's not the same as my eyes doing it. So these are things that even at this beginning stage, when I'm laying out the light and dark pattern of the painting, that I want to decide right now how much dark do I want to put on his face, how much dark do I want to put on his face, how much contrast. There is a soft light coming from this direction here, but what do I want to do with that? So, and of course this being a marble table at the top with probably a wood base underneath, this is not part of the subject area, so I can go darker with this and nobody's going to care. But I don't necessarily want to turn everything dark to a dark, meaning a black kind of dark, solid dark kind of thing. I want to keep everything light and interesting. Not even light, because I tend to like a little bit more contrast in my paintings. I have a very hard time doing high key anything. But you know, that's my nature to also try stuff too. So anyway, I'm going to quit gawking about this because I'll probably add this to another video later. And follow my channel at Borsheim Arts on YouTube, but also borsheimarts.com is my site. You can see finished works there, and I also talk about the process of my sculptures and my paintings and my drawings on those pages for each individual item. Thank you for watching, liking, subscribing, sharing, all that good stuff. Ciao, ciao for now. Hi, this is Kelly Borsheim again. I wanted to share with you something that was first put into words for me with Canadian painter Robert Genn, who has sadly left us many years ago. He was one of the first people on the internet because he wrote to me back in '97, I think it was, and said, "Oh, you have a website, you're an artist, would you like to join my new artist community?" Absolutely. I couldn't even believe the internet did stuff like that back then. I was so thrilled that a Canadian painter would find me. But He sent out a newsletter every Tuesday and Friday, anything to do with art, all ranges of the subject, from the creation, from the business, from inspiration, from our bad habits. And here's one of the things that I love that he put into words, because I found it was true for me. I just couldn't figure out exactly what the deal was. Here's an example. So I'm painting this monochrome painting, all right? And I'm trying to darken something, and I'm getting to the point here where I'm running out of paint. Do you know what happens? I start getting stingy with the paint because I think that's all there is, and I want it to cover the whole painting, right? There's a part of my brain that doesn't want to waste things, but you find the other thing happens. I think he called it something about the theory of abundance or something. He was saying that, you know, if you only have one canvas left, that all of a sudden you get really slow on your painting and you want to make that last. No. Go get more painting, get more canvas, get more canvas to stretch, get them ready to be painted on, and your productivity goes up. The same thing I'm finding here with my paint. I'm getting low on the dark. So, I want to try to maybe paint the light stuff. Well, if I'm mentally not ready to paint light stuff and I'm in the darks, then the simple solution is really go get some more of this stuff and slap it down there. Now, I'm not saying, and neither was he, to waste materials. But there is that stinginess that happens when you're running low. It messes with your head. The same way that having hunger, wanting to have sex, wanting to sleep, all of those things are necessary. But also, if you don't have the materials ready to go, it really changes your work habits. So get that stuff down there. I'm going to put more of this Rembrandt. This is Rembrandt brand Van Dyke Brown. It's a little bit warmer than some monochromatic neutrals, but it's cooler than burnt umber and stuff. So you can see the difference from my acrylic burnt umber to the Rembrandt brown color, for example. So happy painting. Thanks from Robert Genn, amazing artist and teacher, and sharing all that good stuff. Ciao, ciao. All right, so I'm going to leave it in silent mode, but I thought I would explain while I was painting. I tend to listen to audiobooks when I paint because I like stories, and I'm trying to figure out if I want to write a book or not. So anyway, this is a painting by Alessandro Favre. I think it's Fauvre. I can see the name on a nameplate on the painting. I had to look it up on the internet, and I couldn't find anything, even in the Google Art projects, that had this painting in the cafe. This cafe is Caffe Antico Greco in Roma. No, Antico Caffe Greco in Rome. It's very close to the Spanish Steps at the base, and I went there with a couple of friends of mine many years ago. Well, I took this photo in 2012's December, so that's probably when I was there. And I just thought this guy was so interesting looking, and then just him and his grandson, I assume, enjoying something. But while I was researching this painting, because the painting is behind glass, and my photo has a big glare in it, in the boat section, between the boats. Now, another thing I have to admit to is I didn't want where the photo cut off the frame, it was a little bit too close to the edge of my board, and I didn't want it there. So I moved the frame in a little bit because who cares? But I thought I would do a recreation of the painting, at least what you see there, because why not? I mean, you know, I don't need to document history exactly from my point of view, but at the same time, what else would I put there anyway? So it was kind of nice, and it also does give it a space for people who know this guy. But anyway, I started researching the artist, and I couldn't find this painting. And then in a Google image search, I ended up finding myself on TripAdvisor for this cafe. And going through about almost 2,000 images that are there from reviews and stuff, I did find a couple people who had taken photos of this painting from various angles, so that I can have a couple references that have minimal reflection or reflection in another space. So right now what I'm doing is sort of recreating that painting and getting the tones darker, so that, because I want to push the background back, but then I want to add on. Okay, so here you see me painting the hat. I've taken up a smaller brush, and I want to see how I develop the tones, because when you learn classical painting, you usually learn get your shapes correct first. Then lay in one solid tone, light or dark, or separate the shapes into the parts that are light and the parts that are dark. And then you end up going through applying things, and you blend the light to the dark kind of thing, depending on, what the shape is. You might have a soft edge, you might have a sharp edge. You can see here that I'm using a little bit fatter brush again. So I layered the white that's on top of the hat. I put it in following the outer edge with the tip of my brush, and then I'm going back in with a dark to make that white edge thinner, okay? And I tend to do that a lot. I tend to paint the thing with a bigger brush and then go in and with other tones, go into the sides and make the line as slender as I want it to be. So anyway, you can see that as I'm layering in the lights and the darks, I'm sort of blending as I go, because once you know all the steps, it's very easy actually to start blending them in, anticipating what you're going to do. And again, edges to me are the romance and the dimensionality of a painting. So oil paint is not going to dry obviously as fast as watercolor paint. As fast as acrylic paint. However, when I'm painting on board, even with the gesso on it, I find that the board will suck out the liquid that's in the oil. So in that reason, I don't want to leave it too long, the oil paint. I try to lay in the tones, and then later I'll go in either with a brush that's either clean, or maybe even the same brush, depending on what tones are on the brush. Or I often use my fingers, because I've never gotten rid of that love of finger painting that you have when you're a child. But also the oils on my hand, on my fingertips especially, seem to, and also the fat padding of my fingers, like we all have, they seem to make a really nice smudging tool. And so I like that. And I just like to touch things because I'm actually a sculptor. So there's that. Now, here you can see I've started layering in the jacket. And all of this is because at first I wanted to work in the center of the painting, as I did when I was street painting. You work in the center and then pull out so that you don't walk all over your artwork on the street. I started to do that, but then I realized hands are so important for communication and for emotions. Hands, and we look at eyes and we look at mouths when we speak, those three things. And I decided that instead of building the hands up, I want to go in and create the backgrounds first, so that I can relate the shapes of the hands to the rest of the subject of the painting. Now, I don't know if you're noticing my chin here, but I look often at the picture that's above me. I did mount it on the canvas, or on the easel, so that the bottom part is tucked in, because I don't really care about that at this point. I was wanting to focus on the faces, and it's just easier to have it a little bit closer. So anyway, I'm laying in the jacket things now. Now, I'm not thinking about, this is this part of the jacket or that part of the jacket. I am thinking about the roll of the light, the curve of the soft fabric as it's going around. So I am laying in one tone at a time, basically, but I'm anticipating that, okay, this is a dark here between his neck and then the collar, and I need to have a soft edge between those, one, because they're in the shadow, but also because there's no point in having a hard edge there. However, you'll see that I did put the white of the jacket that's catching the light against the frame. I did, again, put that in the same way I did with the hat, because I don't want to forget that it's there, but also the contrast puts him in front of the frame. And there are other parts of the jacket that, even though they're light, they're going to have soft edges and maybe even some tones that will match the background to some degree, so that he doesn't look cut out and pasted on top of the painting. So yeah, you see me working the edge a little bit. Now, it's funny because right now I'm trying to pull away from realism, but as I do, a lot of times I go back and I look at art and I think, okay, I see what people are making. I try to kind of limit myself to looking at what others do, because believe it or not, it influences what you do. And I kind of want to see where I will go on my own. So actually, I really did a nice job on the collar there. I see making the 3D making the collar look like it's really popping up and even curving away from the jacket. Not to compliment myself, but hey, you know, you study this stuff, you get to kind of understand what you're doing. And I can tell you, I'm not really thinking about words here. I am listening to an audiobook and doing that, but I'm mostly trying to refine my shapes with the lights and the darks. But again, I keep having two minds with stuff. I keep thinking, oh, what I should do is really just wash the whole thing and then slowly develop the face like an Eugène Carrière painting, because he's my favorite painting. Eugène Carrière was a French contemporary of Rodin. They both admired each other's work, I believe. And when I speak about Eugène Carrière, I'm not talking about his early works that look like a lot of other artists of his generation. I'm talking about later, when he got into his soft edge, his ghostly, his monochromatic paintings of usually his wife and his children. Those are so romantic. And anyway, that's a sideline. Look him up if you like. So anyway, I'm starting to work on the hands a little bit. And then I, again, decided I want to relate the hands to the rest. So I'm going to go in and start painting the bowl on the table and the little cafe cup. And because I want for example, the bottom edge of the hand has a specific distance from the plate or the bowl or whatever it is on the table. Okay, so if I can draw in all of those other things, I just minimize my chances of making the hand larger, for example. So a lot of shape refining is looking at negative shapes, not just gridding things out like you do when you're starting out with art a lot. But, you know, I am making that relationship. I'll take a horizontal and go, well, is his hand higher than the hand of his grandson? I'm assuming it's a grandson. Where does the arm enter the sleeve? Is it below the hat, below the line of the face? How about the nose, you know? And I can already see mistakes I've made in the tones of the face. And part of that is also because I'm copying a reference that I told you earlier. I don't necessarily want the faces to be in as shadow as much as this. The other thing I wanted to make clear is when you're doing an underpainting, you want it to be lighter, because whether I glaze color or whether I actually apply opaque color on top of what I've already painted, the tendency is going to be that the painting will be darker. So I want to have a lighter undertone also, because oil painting over years, depending on how you mix your chemicals and whether you put calcium carbonate powder into your lighter colors to make them opaque and chunky or whatever, you know, all the different mixtures you're going to do are going to impact it. But at some point, you want the painting underneath to be light. Otherwise, your painting's going to go really, really dark as the oil paints get transparent. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and click the notification bell to get notified of new videos on the YouTube, or you can go to my site to see finished works. I appreciate you, and leave your comments, questions, and all that. Thanks so much.